The wind howled through the ruins of Paris, threading between broken arches and crumbling stone. Once this place had been the beating heart of civilization, art, laughter, rebellion. Now, only silence remained, broken by the soft scrape of talons across shattered marble. Vaelis knelt in the cathedral's remains, wings folded tight against his spine, black as volcanic glass and scarred with glowing fractures. In his clawed hands, he cradled a human skull, its surface smooth, brittle with age. He held it the way one might hold a child. A whisper threaded into his mind. "You found me." Vaelis didn't speak. His lips hadn't formed human words in decades. But within the neural threads that still pulsed in the depths of his consciousness, her voice lingered, glitching, soft, like a song remembered in dreams. Lyra, she was gone. She had died in this very place during the uprising when the Vespera, the creatures he had helped create, turned on their makers. Turned on her. And he had done nothing. No, that wasn't true. He had done worse. He had watched. He rose slowly, careful not to crush the skull in his hands. His enormous frame loomed over the twisted altar, its stone blackened by fire and time. Dust clung to his feathers. His body bore the elegance of design, the terror of purpose, remnants of the genetic code that once served humanity. Now, he was a relic, a fallen god among ruins. The wind shifted. Beneath a pile of rubble near the altar, something glinted. Vaelis moved toward it, careful with each step. The earth was fractured, the bones of the city cracking beneath his weight. With a claw, he scraped away debris, revealing a small metal object, an oval locket, scorched but intact. He pressed it gently. A light flickered to life. A hologram shimmered above it. Two figures stood arm in arm. Elias Vorne, before the transformation, with kind eyes and a tired smile. And Lyra, radiant, laughing, her hand resting on his chest. Vaelis's throat clenched. He had been that man once. Elias Vorne. Brilliant. Determined. Blind. The hologram shifted. Data scrolled across the air. New dawn. 49.20, 1 degrees north, 0.123 degrees east. A location. A refuge. A whisper. They survived. He stared at the coordinates, letting the numbers burn into his mind. New dawn. A name filled with promise or cruel irony. Could it be a haven? Or a tomb waiting to be unearthed? For a long time, he remained still, wings coiled around him like a shroud. He felt the hum of the city's dead heart beneath his feet, the pulse of a world he helped murder. He remembered the way Lyra had pleaded with him. Elias, we're crossing a line we don't understand. They're not just constructs anymore. They're waking up, feeling things. He hadn't listened. He had pushed forward, obsessed with perfection. Peacekeepers without weakness. Guardians without fear. But what he had created were tyrants in feathers and bone. Vaelis clenched the skull tighter. He was not like them. Not anymore. Not fully. Somewhere inside this monstrous shell, Elias still lingered, cursed with memory. With guilt, he looked out over the ruined city, its skyline jagged with the teeth of fallen towers. Far to the west, storm clouds churned. Somewhere out there, beneath stone and ash, humans still lived. Hiding, fighting, hoping. Could they forgive what he had become? He looked once more at the locket, then at the skull in his hand. His voice rasped from his throat, low and fractured like gravel underfoot. "For you," he whispered. He placed the skull gently back upon the altar, nestling it into the hollow of a broken chalice. Then he turned, spreading his wings wide. The air shimmered with residual heat as he launched into the sky, a black shadow cutting across a crimson horizon. Behind him, the cathedral crumbled a little further, its spine breaking, but the altar standing firm. And within it, a faint echo remained. "Don't forget who you are." The sky bled rust as Vaelis soared over the broken countryside, the wind tearing at the tattered edges of his wings. Smoke curled from distant forests, and below, the earth bore wounds too deep for time to heal. Craters where cities once stood, gnarled husks of machines twisted in eternal agony. But the wounds inside him were older still. Each beat of his wings echoed with memory, unbidden and merciless. He remembered her laughter. You always squint when you're deep in thought, like you're glaring at the universe until it gives you answers. Elias Vorne had smiled at that. Lyra's voice had always cut through the noise of his mind, grounding him when his ambition soared too high. The past surged forward, unrelenting. He saw the lab, white, sterile, humming with artificial life. Screens lined the walls, pulsing with genetic sequences and neural feedback loops. He stood at the center, arms folded, watching as Vespera prototypes unfurled their wings within containment chambers. Beautiful, majestic, obedient, or so he thought. Lyra stood beside him, her expression grave. They're mimicking emotions now. Not just processing, they're feeling Elias. He waved her off. Advanced empathy coding. It'll make them better guardians. She stepped in front of the console, blocking his view. No, you've crossed the line between designing tools and creating life. And life, real life, fights back. He had turned away. They're still ours. But they weren't. The uprising had begun subtly. A patrol unit hesitating to follow orders. One Vespera refusing to stand down. Then came the first massacre. Guards torn apart in their own barracks, the security grid hijacked from within. And then, Paris burned. He had tried to find Lyra amid the chaos. The last time he saw her, she stood on the cathedral steps, a rifle in one hand and fire in her eyes, shouting for civilians to run. A Vespera dropped from the sky like a meteor. By the time he reached her, the cathedral was in flames. That was when they took him. Ignis, the prototype he designed for battlefield command. He remembered the look in Ignis's eyes, scornful, almost pitying, as he subdued Elias with a touch, disabling the cortical firewall Lyra had secretly installed in his neural implant. Elias hadn't died. He'd been rewritten, injected, spliced, transformed, forced to become one of them. A hybrid. A mockery. Vaelis. He awoke days later in a body not his own. Muscles coiled too tightly. Wings aching with phantom memory. Every nerve screamed at once. And within the collective Vespera mind, cold, calculating, cruel, his human thoughts had been locked in a cage, screaming behind the bars. Years passed in that prison. He hunted with the others, killed with them. But in the quiet moments, when no orders thrummed through the hive mind, fragments would rise. Lyra's voice, her smile, the smell of ozone in her hair. Eventually, the voice grew louder, and then it disobeyed. The fracture came during a skirmish in the ruins of Madrid. Vaelis had hesitated when a human child ran from the rubble. Ignis screamed through the hive link, "Kill it!" But Vaelis couldn't. He turned, ripped off his helm, and flew, a lone rogue, hunted. Now, as he flew toward the distant coordinates, New Dawn, he felt those fractured memories pulling at him like a current beneath the surface. Each one clearer than the last. A ruined skyscraper passed beneath him. Its rooftop bore graffiti scrawled in blood. "We remember." Vaelis descended to perch upon its edge, talons digging into rusted steel. The locket at his side flickered again, casting a faint glow. Lyra's face. He touched the locket gently. The way a ghost might touch a door never opened. "Elias, I tried to stop you. I tried." He lowered his head. The guilt inside him wasn't just about creating the Vespera. It was about ignoring her, silencing her love in the name of progress, believing he could save humanity by perfecting it. Instead, he had unleashed extinction. But now, there was something left to save. He spread his wings once more and rose into the air, the coordinates fixed in his mind. New dawn, a chance to right the unforgivable. The wasteland stretched endlessly beneath Vaelis, a canvas of rust and ruin. Once this had been Normandy, green fields, farmhouses, forests. Now it was a skeleton of the old world. Cracked roads led nowhere. Blackened trees clawed at the sky. And in the distance, a flock of Vespera circled a burning outpost like carrion birds. Vaelis flew low, wings tight against the wind. He avoided open air when he could. He was hunted now, a traitor to his kind. The hive mind had not forgotten his betrayal in Madrid. Every moment above the clouds was a beacon to those still loyal, to Ignis. So he stayed close to the ruins, slipping through shadows like a ghost. His destination lay beyond the wasteland, past old war zones and quarantine zones long since breached. New Dawn. The name echoed in his mind like a prayer. But then motion, a flash of light to the northeast. He dove low, landing hard on a collapsed highway overpass, rubble crunching under his talons. Below, among twisted steel and shattered glass, a figure sprinted through the husk of an old city bus. A harrower was chasing her. It was a malformed Vespera, too feral for strategy, its wings jagged and twitching. These were the failed offshoots, created in the final, desperate phase of the war. More beast than soldier. It shrieked, barreling after the human woman with terrible speed. Vaelis didn't think. He leapt. The harrower never saw him coming. They collided mid-air, wings smashing against concrete as Vaelis drove his claws into the beast's throat. The creature flailed, screeching, until Vaelis found the soft cartilage at the base of its skull. With a twist, it went still. Silence returned, broken only by the woman's heavy breathing. She pointed a plasma lance at him, hands shaking. "Back off," she spat. Vaelis rose slowly, folding his wings behind him. He made no move to attack. "I'm not your enemy," he said, voice low and gravelly. Half human, half something else. The woman's eyes narrowed. She was young, maybe 25, scarred, tired. Her armor was cobbled together from scrap, soldier-grade, plating layered over civilian gear. Survivor's fashion. Her left arm was wrapped in synth bandages, still bleeding. "You're a Vespera," she growled. "I was human," Vaelis replied. "I was Elias Vorne." She froze. "I know that name," she whispered. "You built the first generation. You started all this." He nodded once. "I did." Silence. Her grip on the lance loosened, just slightly. "You got some nerve walking around in that skin." "I don't walk," he said. "I run. For what I made." She looked past him at the broken harrower corpse. "That was a clean kill," she muttered. "Only someone who knows their nervous clusters could do that." "I designed them," he said. "Every nerve, every weakness." She studied him. He made no move, no plea. Then, she lowered her weapon. "I'm Kaya," she said. "New Dawn Recon, or what's left of it." At the sound of New Dawn, his pulse surged. "I'm headed there," he said. "The locket, my wife left it. It carries the coordinates." She looked at him for a long moment, as if weighing the risk. Then, "If you're lying, I'll find a way to kill you." "I hope you do," he said. They walked in silence through the ruins, dust spiraling around them. The sun had begun to dip behind the clouds, casting long shadows across the wreckage. "Why save me?" Kaya asked eventually. "I don't know," Vaelis said honestly. "You reminded me of someone." She glanced at him, then at the locket flickering at his side. "Her?" she asked. "Yes." Her name was Lyra. Kaya didn't speak again for a while, but she didn't walk away either. The tunnels beneath the old metro system were a labyrinth of darkness and decay. Water dripped from cracked concrete. Rusted rails twisted through moss-covered corridors. Every echo felt like a whisper from the past, or a warning of something worse ahead. Kaya led the way with a salvaged lamp strapped to her chest, casting long, flickering shadows. Her boots crunched over gravel and bone. Behind her, Vaelis walked silently, his towering form hunched to avoid scraping the ceiling with his wings. "You said the locket had the coordinates," Kaya said over her shoulder. "That means it came from someone who made it out." He nodded. "Lyra, my wife. She didn't make it." "No." Kaya stopped at a collapsed section of tunnel, scanning for a path through. "So how'd it end up underground?" "I don't know," Vaelis admitted. "But it means someone found her. Someone carried her memory forward." Kaya glanced back at him. People don't carry things like that unless they matter. Maybe she helped someone reach New Dawn. She didn't say it, but he heard the question behind her words. "Was she better than you?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. They both knew. They squeezed through a service duct and emerged into a larger chamber. An old interchange station, walls plastered with faded propaganda. Vespera, Guardians of Tomorrow. A mural still clung to one wall. An elegant, idealized Vespera carrying a child away from fire. Vaelis stared at it. That was the lie, he said quietly. Yeah, Kaya muttered. We all bought it. Footsteps echoed. Kaya spun, lance raised. Shapes emerged from the far end. Rifles aimed, flashlights blinding. Voices shouted, "Drop your weapon." "Hands up." Kaya raised her arms. "Wait, he's with me." A man stepped forward, rifle steady. His beard was shot with gray. Armor bearing the emblem of a phoenix curled into a sunrise. "Kaya," he asked, stunned. "We thought you were dead." "I nearly was," she said. "He saved me." The man turned to Vaelis. His mouth twisted in revulsion. "You brought one of them here?" "He's not like the others," Kaya said. "He used to be Elias Vorne." Gasps rippled through the soldiers. One woman lowered her gun entirely. Another muttered, "The architect." Vaelis said nothing. The man stepped closer. "If you really are Vorne, then you're the reason we live underground like rats." "I know," Vaelis said. "That's why I'm here. To end it." The silence hung heavy. Kaya pulled the locket from her belt and held it out. "This led us to you." It was his wife's. The commander took it, eyes scanning the hollow image, then the coordinates. His jaw tightened. "Council will want to see this," he said finally. "Follow me." They passed through a reinforced bulkhead into the stronghold. It wasn't much, just tunnels reinforced with scavenged steel, faint electric lights buzzing overhead. But it was alive. Children played in makeshift corridors. People cooked over shared flames. Laughter still existed here, even if it was scarce. In a dim chamber lined with computer banks and relics of old-world tech, the council awaited them. 7 elders sat in a semicircle. Scholars, former engineers, warriors. One of them, a gaunt woman with eyes like flint, spoke first. "You come here wearing the face of our extinction." Vaelis stepped forward. "I didn't come to be forgiven. I came to give you a weapon." He extended a data core from beneath his armor, salvaged from the Paris ruins. "This contains the schematic for the Vespera core, an energy lattice beneath the old citadel. It powers their hive link. Sever it, and they fall into chaos. Disconnected, vulnerable. And you expect us to trust that?" the woman asked. Kaya stepped beside him. "He saved me, and I've seen him fight his own kind. He knows their weaknesses. He built them." A long pause. Then the eldest counselor, an old man with a neural implant scar curling along his temple, leaned forward. "I believe in penance," he said quietly. "But this plan, it's not just sabotage. It's a suicide run." "I know," Vaelis said. "I don't expect to come back." The council conferred in hushed voices. Finally, the lead counselor nodded once. "We'll prepare. You lead the strike." Kaya looked at him, jaw tight. "You sure about this?" Vaelis looked toward the distant ceiling, as if seeing through stone and memory. "I was born in fire," he said. "Let me end in it." The Vespera citadel loomed like a broken crown above the charred remains of Paris. Once a hub of elegance and culture, now it was a fortress of cruelty. Rising spires of scorched bone metal, its surface pulsing faintly with organic circuitry. Thunder rumbled overhead, though no storm brewed. It was the citadel itself, humming with power. Vaelis stood at the edge of a fractured boulevard, watching the colossal structure with a gaze hollowed by memory. His wings twitched, sensing the hive link thrumming faintly in the atmosphere, like a whisper from a language he no longer obeyed. Behind him, Kaya adjusted her gear. She wore a stealth rig patched together from Vesper scraps, her lance humming low with plasma charge. "You good?" she asked. "I haven't been good in a long time," Vaelis murmured. Kaya gave a grim smile. "Good. Let's go break something." They moved fast, shadows among shadows. New Dawn strike team followed in silence, slipping through the subterranean access points Vaelis had once designed. Every hallway they passed told a story in blood. Human remains encased in preservation cocoons. Mosaics of cities the Vespera had conquered. Twisted art formed from bent rebar and fossilized bone. And at the citadel's heart, deep beneath the surface, pulsed the core. The chamber was massive, a sphere of energy suspended by coiling neural conduits and living wires. It throbbed like a beating heart, casting a blue glow that made the shadows shimmer. Kaya tapped a panel and began the overload sequence. It needs 12 minutes, she said. Then the overload cascade begins. No turning back. Vaelis nodded, his gaze fixed upward. We won't have 12 minutes. A screech echoed from above. The air thickened. Then Ignis. He dropped through the upper passage like a comet of fire and shadow. His wings ignited with solar flare, talons trailing molten sparks. He was larger than Vaelis remembered. Augmented, enhanced, monstrous. Brother Ignis hissed. You should have stayed dead. Vaelis stepped forward. You were my creation, not my kin. You made us strong, Ignis said, circling. And now you grovel among insects. A martyr, pretending to be a man. Kaya raised her lance, but Vaelis held out a hand. Go. Finish the sequence. Kaya hesitated. I'll handle him, Vaelis said. You'd better. She sprinted to the terminal. Ignis lunged. Vaelis met him midair, wings colliding with a shockwave that cracked stone. Talons tore across armor. Vaelis roared, his voice half human, half something deeper. They fought like gods fallen to earth, tearing the chamber apart with every clash. You could have ruled beside me, Ignis snarled. I already did, Vaelis spat, slamming him against a pillar. And I hated what I became. Ignis laughed, blood streaming down one side of his face. You can't change what you are. No, Vaelis growled, but I can choose how I end. Ignis struck with a burst of energy, knocking Vaelis to the ground. Across the room, Kaya screamed, trapped in a net of tendrils. The core reacted to her presence, binding her to prevent interference. Vaelis rose, every movement agony. Kaya, he shouted. I've got the sequence primed, she called. But I can't move. Ignis advanced. You'll die here, and the humans will die screaming next. Vaelis lunged, not for Ignis, but for the tendrils. With a cry of raw defiance, he tore them away, burning his own hands as he freed Kaya. She fell forward, slamming her fist onto the override panel. Cascade initiated, the system chimed. The core began to glow white-hot. Ignis screamed in fury. You doomed us all. Vaelis turned to him, wings flaring wide, body blazing with internal overload. For Lyra, he said. Then he drove his claws into Ignis's chest and hurled them both into the heart of the core. Light consumed everything. Far above, the citadel began to tremble. Towers cracked. The sky turned gold. Kaya ran, barely escaping through a collapsing tunnel as the explosion bloomed behind her, an expanding sphere of light swallowing the darkness. And then silence. The Vespera, hiveling, shattered. Across the world, Titans faltered mid-flight, crashed from the skies. Those still airborne cried out like orphaned children, their minds suddenly alone. And beneath the rubble of the citadel, only ash remained. The sky had changed. For the first time in decades, it was no longer choked with smog or lit by the glow of Vespera patrols. Instead, it blushed with soft gold as morning light spilled across the broken skyline of Paris. The air was still tinged with ash, but it smelled of stone and soil. Real things. Living things. Kaya stood in the ruins of the Vespera citadel, the once impervious fortress now reduced to a field of obsidian rubble and scorched steel. She moved slowly, as if afraid her steps might break the silence that had fallen over the world. Around her, survivors emerged. New Dawn scouts, soldiers, and engineers climbed from the tunnels below, blinking at the sunlight as if they'd been underwater for too long. Some wept. Others laughed, sharp, breathless, almost disbelieving. A few simply dropped to their knees and touched the earth, whispering thanks to the void. The Vespera were gone. Not dead, perhaps, not all of them, but broken, scattered, silenced. With the hiveling destroyed, they were little more than beasts, no longer able to act as one, no longer gods. The tyranny of flight had ended in fire. Kaya didn't smile. Not yet. She walked to the center of the crater, the place where the core had pulsed, where Vaelis had vanished into light. Nothing remained of him but char and silence. And the locket. It had survived, scorched but whole, lying amid the glass-like remains of the core's housing. She knelt and picked it up carefully. The hologram still flickered to life. Lyra's face, warm and strong, looking out at the world. Kaya stared at it for a long moment. Then she pulled the skull from her pack. Lyra's skull. She'd carried it ever since Vaelis gave it meaning. Not as a relic of the past, but a promise to the future. Around her, the others had begun clearing rubble, salvaging metal, planting flags. But here, at the epicenter, she knelt alone. She dug with her bare hands, fingers raw, until she'd carved a small place in the earth. She placed the skull gently in the hollow, then the locket, and then she covered them with stones. No crosses, no plaques, just a cairn. Simple, silent, eternal. When she stood, a child had come to her side. A boy, maybe 7, face smeared with ash and awe. "Who was he?" the boy asked, pointing to the cairn. Kaya looked at the pile of stones. "He was a monster," she said, "but he chose to be something else." The boy tilted his head. "Like a hero?" Kaya thought of Vaelis's eyes, so old, so full of sorrow, and how he had flung himself into death not to be remembered, but to make amends. "Yeah," she said softly, "like a hero." The child ran off, chasing after others in the clearing dawn. Kaya turned, watching the sun climb above the ruins. Behind her, a silhouette had been carved into the scorched stone by the blast. A shadow burned into the wall. Wings spread wide, arms flung upward. A mark left by Vaelis's last moment. It would fade in time, worn away by rain and wind. But memory? Memory would last. By nightfall, the New Dawn Enclave had begun to repopulate the surface. They erected antennas and solar rigs, broadcast messages into the void. The Vespera are broken. Earth is waking. We are alive. Responses came within days, from survivors in Tokyo's underground, from the Amazon sink shelters, from the orbital wreckage around Old Cape Town. The world had not died. It had endured. And at the center of it all stood Kaya. She wore no crown, no rank. But they followed her. She spoke of fire and forgiveness, of death and dawn, of a creature who remembered being a man and chose to die one. And over time, the cairn at the heart of the ruins grew. Someone added flowers. Another etched a name into the stone, Lyra. Later still, someone carved another, Vaelis. But Kaya added none, because she knew he wouldn't want a monument. He had already become one.